The SEC Game of the Week touches down in Knoxville Saturday afternoon as the Vols host the top-ranked Dogs. In a season that's been anything but predictable, Georgia has been the one constant, and it starts with their historically great defense. No team has been able to score more than 13 points against Georgia all season, and now their offense seems to be clicking on all cylinders.
Long ball to the end zone. He's got a man breaking open. Touchdown! Touchdown! Arian Smith! Touchdown, Dogs!
For the Vols, it's been an up-and-down season for first-year head coach Josh Heupel. But after dropping 2 straight, they were in need of a signature win, and it's something they got last week in Lexington.
Levis back to throw. There's the out intercepted at midfield. To the 40, to the 30. That's going to be a touchdown for Tennessee. Alontae Taylor. He read that perfectly.
While on paper, this one's a mismatch, stranger things have happened, especially in this rivalry.
4 seconds to go. Dobbs loads up, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins! Caught it by Tennessee, Jawan Jennings. I don't believe I saw that.
Can the Vols pull off a massive upset and take down Georgia for the first time since their miracle in Athens? Or will the Dogs' ferocious defense continue to dominate? It's the SEC Game of the Week in Knoxville on CBS.
And for more on our CBS SEC Game of the Week, let's now bring in our man who will be on the call for that one, CBS Sports' Gary Danielson. Gary, the gap between Georgia and Kentucky in the East is now 3 games. They're 2 games up on Alabama in the overall conference, and of course 9-0 overall. And that's not to mention that they're outscoring conference opponents 40-7 on average. The gap in class just continues to expand here for Georgia, doesn't it?
Well, it appears so, and it's not just, a gap in talent, which is obvious, I think, for Georgia. It's just a very motivated team. They've come close a couple times, 2nd and 26. They've been there. And this team looks like, they're all in. There's no division. There's nobody, reading Twitter and figuring out why they're, not playing enough or why they're not getting enough targets, as other players like to talk about. They seem to have a lot of depth. But most of all, to me, a very committed football team that they're not going to let any distraction get in the way of what they think is a championship football season.
JT Daniels returned to action for the first time in 42 days in last week's 43-6 win over Missouri. Everybody was happy to see Daniels back, including the kid who replaced him, Stetson Bennett. Kirby Smart says, hey, we're going to stick with Bennett until further notice, and the stats would indicate why. Everyone seems okay with it for now. But, Gary, you said that, everybody's on the same page here, so how long can this work? Are these guys going to become a 1-2 punch here?
I think it will be. I think they're close enough to the finish line, and the reward is so big of a national championship that it would just be too selfish for anybody on this football team to put themselves ahead of the team right now. I think it'll work out fine. Stetson has earned to be the quarterback of this football team. He stepped in when they needed him. He's played great football. He seems to fit the style of offense that Georgia is good at playing. They're getting healthier in the skilled positions at wide receiver. Stetson is improving, there's no doubt. And I think JT's style of being a drop-back passer, a veteran quarterback coming off the bench, I think he would be perfect for this team if they get into a shootout. Something happens, you need a guy to go in there to throw. I think everybody knows their role, and I think Kirby's done a great job with bringing the quarterback situation and not letting it get out of hand for the football team. Hey, if they were 1 game behind or there was, 6 games to go, there might be a lot of talk. But I think the finish line is close enough for them to live with what's going on right now. And it's working great.
And a lot of players on the team, including their head coach Kirby, saying what a great job JT has done, certainly coaching Stetson here as he, takes over the team in his absence. For the Volunteers, coming off a big win over Kentucky, their first win over a ranked team this season, Hendon Hooker had a career day in that game, 316 and 4 touchdowns, no picks. He's thrown for at least 3 in 4 of his last 5 games. How impressive has Hooker been leading up to this game for you?
I think the word is leading. Not only has he showed his athletic ability in this thing and then just bringing the Heupel offense and making it go the way it did at Central Florida, actually wherever Josh has gone, he's done a great job of producing points. But I think his leadership, I think his team just believes that he's the guy. He's the right guy at the right time. He has no fear in the way he plays. It kind of carries over to all of the players on the team. You know, it's a unique offense. They move fast. They score fast. Everybody has to be on board. You know, against Alabama, they ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. Maybe they've gotten used to it. Now, we all know the talent is different when you play week in and week out. But I think the way Hooker has kind of just accepted the role and brought his leadership from Virginia Tech, I think everybody believes in this guy.
And they are an offense that moves very quickly. The Volunteers come into this game 20-point underdogs. The over-under at a healthy 56 points here. So what do Josh Heupel and company have to do to pull off the upset?
Is that 56 for one team, or is that both teams? Jeez, that's kind of surprising. I think more of the same. You know, I think the way the teams have been playing, they've got to say this is our style, embrace the style. They know that they stood toe-to-toe on the road against Alabama. I think they realize that this is a team, I think, a better defense than the Alabama football team. But I think they feel that, hey, let's keep this thing close. Let's play our game, and let's let Georgia get in a close game. I think that'd be the goal number one. You know, Florida had it for a half, and then they disintegrated in the last 2 minutes. I think if Tennessee can get Georgia into the beginning of the fourth quarter and still have it a game, listen, you know, just a few weeks ago, Brad and I and Jamie were in College Station, and nobody thought that A&M had any chance. Zach Calzada that night had one of those special nights. It will take a special night by some portion of this Tennessee team. You don't know where it is. It may be their defensive line, you know, comes out of the chute and gets those tackles for the loss. It may be the secondary get a couple interceptions, or as A&M did it with their quarterback. But some part of this football team is going to have to play special to upset this Georgia football team.
Okay, so that's what they have to do. Gary, what are you expecting to see in this game?
I think they're going to have to be balanced. If they're not able to run the ball, you know, the way Alabama shut down the Tennessee running game, I don't think that's going to work. They can't get into a passing game. Too much talent in this Georgia defensive line to go at them with just one hand. I think if they can stay balanced, you know, they got to believe they have a chance. They also are going to have to figure out a way to stop the Georgia running game. If they can do anything similar to the way Kentucky held on to the ball and keep the ball on third down, Brad and I might be telling stories and looking at the, you know, the playoff system and figuring out what to change next. So it's one of those games that I think everything has to hit for this Tennessee football team.
Great stuff, Gary. Thanks for hopping on with us. CBS Sports college football analyst Gary Danielson joining us to discuss our SEC game of the week between Georgia and Tennessee. Hey, you want to make sure that the Saturday honeydew list and all the running around done by 3:30 p.m. Eastern time so you can lock in and focus on this one. Going to be a good one. Georgia's won 4 of the last 5 in the series, as well as 9 of the last 11, including 4 of the last 5 in Knoxville. But don't let the line fool you here. This is a Tennessee team capable of scoring points very quickly, and they'll be confident as they face the #1 defense in college football. The big key for Tennessee, you heard Gary talk about it, they have to make sure that they don't run out of gas in the fourth quarter as they did against Alabama. Bulldogs looking to go at perfect 10-0 this season with the win. And we're not done with this game. We call it our SEC Super Preview for a reason. Let's now bring in our Barrett Sallee and Emery Hunt to give us their picks for this game. Emery, I'm going to start with you here. Give us your player to watch on Georgia.
I look at cornerback Kelee Ringo. This is someone that's going to be looked upon to make plays in the passing game. We know Josh Heupel and company wants to throw the football around the yard, and they're not going to throw it to Darian Kendrick's side. So it's going to be Ringo that's going to have to step up and make plays, and he's done so this year. And when we look at Georgia's defense, we talk a lot about the linebackers, D-line, and safeties, but the corners will get tested in this ball game. And I think out of the 2 corners, Ringo will have to play his best game if they want to get the win.
Yeah, he's going to definitely have to play his best game because this is the most explosive offense that Georgia has faced. I'm going to go with the offensive side of the ball for the Bulldogs, and that's Stetson Bennett. Obviously, it's easy to say the quarterback, but what we saw last week I think is very important. Stetson got every meaningful snap, and JT came in mop-up duty. And what we know about Stetson Bennett, there's this idea out there that Stetson can't stretch the field. He's second in the nation in yards per attempt behind Grayson McCall of Coastal Carolina. So I think Stetson Bennett is going to have to do that a little bit more in this game against Tennessee because Tennessee is the best offense that Georgia has faced. So it's not necessarily going to be a shootout per se, but I do think Stetson is going to have a little bit more pressure on him to stretch the field than he has in previous games.
And Bennett started the last 5 games, and of course his passing efficiency, you talk about his numbers being 3rd in the nation as well behind Grayson McCall and Caleb Williams. So Barrett, let's get your player to watch on Tennessee then. Let's flip it over to the other side. Who are you keeping an eye on there?
Well, it's Velus Jones, the wide receiver. There's great wide receivers on this team. I don't think anybody realizes how great this team is. Javonte Payton, Cedric Tillman as well. But when this offense took off, it really happened at that Missouri game early in October. And it's because they got a little bit more creative with Velus Jones. They had him lined up outside, but they moved him into the slot much more. And since that time, I think you've seen all 3 of these wide receivers really come of age. So I think Velus Jones Jr., his emergence as a weapon in a wide variety of different ways has really kickstarted this offense into being the most dangerous in the SEC. You look in October, they led the SEC in yards per play at 7.15, over 9 yards per play last time out. I think the switch with Velus Jones getting more creative with him really sparked this entire offense.
And I'm going to build on that with a quarterback, Hendon Hooker. You talk about someone that has stabilized this offense. You look no further than a guy that handles the football every play. And I feel like in this ball game against a pressure-style defense that wants to get aggressive, his mobility will be key. That's how you get out of pressure. That's how you extend plays. And that's how you find those tremendous targets deep down the field. I think he's going to have to, 1, play within himself and not try to go gamble early on in this ball game going deep down the field, but also try to find ways to move the sticks, stay ahead of the chains with his athleticism. Now, on the flip side of that, he has taken a lot of sacks, and you normally see that with guys that are mobile quarterbacks. They tend to take sacks. But in this game, if Tennessee's going to pull off the upset, he's going to have to play within himself, stay ahead of the chains, use his athleticism as another offensive player, and try to make it an 11-on-11 game. Something Georgia really didn't have to deal with Anthony Richardson, didn't have to deal with KJ Jefferson, and they're going to have to deal with it this weekend against Hendon Hooker.
And of course, Hendon Hooker facing one of the best defenses he'll see probably in his college career. Okay, let's finish up with the pick. Volunteers, 20-point dogs. Emory, what's your play on this one?
I'm laying those points with Georgia. When you talk about tempo and want to move fast and get a lot of plays, to me, against this defense of Georgia, that sounds like a lot of fast 3 and outs. So I expect Georgia to pile up early defensively and really cruise to victory on the back end. It'll be entertaining, but Georgia will definitely cover. So I'm laying the points with Georgia in this ball game.
I'm grabbing the points with Tennessee. Georgia's going to win outright, but I think Tennessee is going to score more points than any other opponent on Georgia this year. Granted, it would only take 14 points to do that, but I do think that they're going to put some pressure on this offense for Georgia to put up 35, 40 points a game. So I'll take the over. I'll take the Vols to cover. I think they get into the 20s, which to me makes this just an automatic over.
Sportsline's Emory Hunt and college football writer Barrett Sallee helping us preview Georgia-Tennessee Saturday on CBS. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Georgia's defense, I mean, they've allowed just 59 points this season through their first 9 games. It's 49 points, just 7 a game in their conference game. The fewest points any team's allowed through 9 games, by the way, in over 2 decades. Georgia's allowed just 3 of their 9 opponents this season to rush for at least 100 yards against them, though they haven't each of the last 2. The game coming up Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. And for more on this game, be sure to join the guys on the Cover 3 podcast. Chip Patterson, Tom Fornelli, Bud Elliott, Danny Cannell, giving you that insider scoop and analysis of all the big games, including this one. Download and follow the Cover 3 podcast wherever you get your podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.